We are in the process of learning the Alei Shur, and we are talking about the importance of actions. The purpose of actions is really the goal of creation. If you remember, we talked about the idea that God created the universe out of nothing, and that was one step, creating the material or the possibility for everything else to exist. That step was called bria, from the verb bara, to create out of nothing. Everything else was to, once everything existed in potentiality, is to actualize that potential. And that's what Hashem did for the rest of the creation process. Our lives are, in a sense, very similar. We are created, and we are given the ability to actualize the potential that is in us. What I said yesterday was that the problem is that most of us aren't aware of what our potential is. So we don't really know what to actualize. Some of you tried to actualize your talents as ballet dancers. That did not work well. Some of you tried to actualize your potential as opera singers. That even went worse. Right? And eventually, through trial and error, we figure out what potential we have. The quicker you learn what your potential is to actualize, the better your life is going to be. Then we talked about nisayon, the idea of being tested by God. The purpose of a nisayon is that since we have complete power to decide what to do, so if God gives us a choice, for example, chicken or meat. God gave you a choice, chicken or meat. That's the question, to be or not to be, right? And if you want, you could choose one of them, or you could choose not to play, but not eat at all. That's also a possibility, to say, I'm skipping dinner. I know it's a big shock, because I don't look like a guy that missed too many meals, but I could skip dinner. I could. So that is called a nisayon, a trial, a test for the person being tested. But from God's perspective, there's no test. God is simply trying to help us actualize a potential that we have. There's certain potential in us that He wants us to actualize. And that's the idea. God only tests those that will pass the test. That's what we saw in the Ramban. And that He will not test the wicked because He will not pass them. And all the tests are for the benefit of the person tested. They're supposed to help you. Okay. We left off yesterday with two stories that the Torah brings us. One is the story of Potiphar's wife, and one is the story of Tamar, right, with Judah in the book of Genesis. So both of them wanted to marry, to at least have children with a tzaddik, with a righteous person. Tamar wanted to have children with Judah, who was righteous. And Potiphar's wife wanted to conceive a child with Joseph because she saw that he was a tzaddik. Being righteous, apparently, is very attractive. The test is for the benefit of the tested, we said. So we have these two women who wanted to have a child with a tzaddik. But what's the difference between them? The difference is as follows. Tamar was willing to be burned to death and not reveal how she got pregnant so as not to embarrass Judah. She did not want to embarrass him. So when they said to him, your daughter-in-law is pregnant, and he said, burn her. And she could have said, it was him. She did not. She would not embarrass him publicly, and she was willing to die for it. On the other hand, Potiphar's wife, what happened to Yosef once he said no? She told everyone that he tried to rape her. If she really wanted to do this with Joseph, L'Shem Shamayim, for the sake of heaven, what happened to the sake of heaven? Right? Remember, we saw that earlier, that Chazal say, Ma zu L'Shem Shamayim, Av zu L'Shem Shamayim. Both of them did it for the right reason. Both of them wanted to have a child with a tzaddik for L'Shem Shamayim, for the heaven's sake. Yet, there are a lot of people whose intention is to do something L'Shem Shamayim. They have all the right intentions. The intention is she wanted to sleep with Joseph for the sake of heaven. But her actions were not for the sake of heaven. That's the key. What matters is not only the kavanah, your intent. What matters is what you actually do. If you lay in your bed in your room saying, I'm here L'Shem Shamayim to learn Torah, but the only thing you do is you give your pillow a big hug at 2 o'clock and wake up at 6, it means that you're not doing it L'Shem Shamayim. As much as the pillow is attractive and calls you over, like, psst, psst, come, take a nap. Come, lay down here. It's so comfy. Right? It is. But lamaise, what do you do? So it's not just kavanah. Potiphar's wife had the right kavanah. But the maise was wrong. And the maise is what determines what would happen to her. So we see that many people have an intent in their heart to do L'Shem Shamayim, to do it for the sake of God. But when they start doing the actions, when this thing is actualized, it turns out that it's no longer L'Shem Shamayim. It has to do with their own faults. Now, the greatest or the father of all human beings that would bring something from potential to actuality was Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was able not only to understand, because there are a lot of great thinkers that understood a few things about the world, but the question is, what do you do with the understanding? It's not only up here. It's that you have to actualize what you now know. Avraham Avinu recognized that there's God, that God created this universe and wants the world to live in a certain way, and he acted upon it. There are others who recognize that, but never did anything with it. Didn't do anything with it. If you remember, Avraham Avinu received the Shekhinah, the divine presence. And all of a sudden, while he's connected to God's presence, Yaakov, 3 people show up at his tent. Correct? And what did he do? What did he do? He left Hashem and ran towards the guests and said, please come, and the whole story that we learned a couple of weeks ago. And he taught us that achnasat orchim, bringing guests into your home, is more important than receiving the Shekhinah. We learned that from Avraham Avinu. And we see that Hashem waited for Avraham Avinu until the guys left. And Avraham isn't like, okay, hurry up. Come on, let's go. Eat, wash, okay? Good. All right, l'chaim, right. Let's go. No, he's, eat this and this. He drags it up. Hashem is waiting. But he understood that the whole purpose of the Torah, the whole purpose of the relationship to Hashem, is to actualize the values and to live by them. It's not just theory. It's not just I recognize that there's God and that I have to be a good person. Be that good person. You have a mitzvah Hashem wants you to do achnasat orchim, then do it. And do it right. Make people feel comfortable in your home. Make people feel wanted. You give tzedakah, give it with a smile. Not like, ha ha. No. Or frown like, no, give it in a way that the person feels like, if I don't have money to give, I say, I'm sorry. Batzlacha, I give you a bracha that you should succeed. Right? You woke up on the wrong side of the bed, it's nobody's fault. Be nice to other people. Well, I didn't tell you to stay up all night watching movies on your phone. What are you mad at me for? Be nice. The idea we see from Avraham is that he actualized the theoretical concepts that he figured out. And he lived by them. Some people will tell you that, listen, I'm speaking with God. The guests, let them wait till I'm done. But Avraham Avinu says, no. It's the other way around. The other way around. Right? The highest goal that a person has in life is to connect to the Shekhinah. Right? Max? Right? That's the highest goal anybody can expect while he's alive. To connect to the Shekhinah. And we see Avraham Avinu, that achnasat orchim is greater than that, more important than that. And what's achnasat orchim? Opening your office door, putting some cookies out and asking people to have tea? Big deal. Who cares? Opening your dorm room and say, hey, come, I have goulash.
It's a big mitzvah, David.
That's the idea. That's the idea. And that is a way that we show Hashem that we honor Him. By honoring fellow Jews. Okay. Whenever you are able to actualize the potential that you have, it is as if you created something new in the world. You are what the Alei Shur call Yotzer Torah, a creator of Torah. And you are making yourself into a Bria Chadasha. That is the mitzvah that you're doing, changes you. You're no longer the same person. You might not feel it, but you've actualized something very, very important, and if you paid attention to it, it'll be easier for you to do that mitzvah again and again and again and again. Because you actualize, it's already now active in you. Don't let it to go to sleep mode. Sometimes we go to sleep mode because it's easier to just, okay, back to normal. Tranquilo, like this. It's very important to be aware of the intentions that we have, and when we actualize these intentions, what actually happens. There's an expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. People have good intentions, but in the end they make a big mistake. And this is the idea that we have to learn from Avraham Avinu how to do our ma'asim, our actions, how to actualize the teachings of the Torah, and to do it in a way that is correct, effective. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Chanina Right? It says in the pasuk, "Im b'chukotai telechu," if you shall follow my laws, keep my commandments, and v'asitem otam, and you did them. So Rabbi Chama bar Reb Chanina said, if you kept the Torah, I will give you credit as if you did it yourself. And that you built yourself up. The idea is that by doing the mitzvot, by actually performing the prescriptive commandments that God gave us, and observing not to cross the prohibitive ones, we are creating a new being. That is because we are actualizing the potential that is in us. And when we actualize something that is potential in us, we become a new being. It's a tremendous idea. It's a very, very powerful idea. When you actualize something, you become something new that you weren't before. When a person doesn't do mitzvot, he essentially is a person who is it's only in potential, because he hasn't actualized anything. It is only through your actions that you actualize the potential that's in you. If you're not doing mitzvot, which are the actual actualizations of the ideas, then you haven't done anything. You're simply still in the level of potential. Because all of the milas, the virtues, and all of the capabilities that are in your neshama are not actualized. You're just sort of letting them stay dormant. It's only when you do a mitzvah that you actualize that aspect of the neshama, and you are moving it from potentiality to actuality. So what's the key? The key is doing the mitzvahs. You want to become the new person. You want success. You want happiness. All the things that people want. They will not happen unless you do something. What are you doing about it? If you're not going to do anything about it, it's not going to come true. You want to come closer to Hashem, do it. You want to become a better person, do it. Not think it. Because on paper, we're all tzaddikim. On paper, we're all tzaddikim, we're all chachamim, we're all wise. But the question is, are you actualizing that? That's the difference between Potiphar's wife and Tamar. When push comes to shove, when you're doing the maaseh, when you're doing the act, what is the result? That is, what is going on in the internal process? What have you actualized? It's possible that the intent that you have will not be actualized, but that you're rather a different intent. And you have to be aware of that.